This week in the NBA, another episode of Trading Places. Sam's a Sonic, and Big Ben is back in LA. We'll analyze the deals that were made and those that were not. It's Chicago, that toddling town, that teetering team. What are the Bulls' three-peat chances? Old Warriors don't die. They surface as coaches. Ask Rick Barry. And an all-star in case you missed it. Every minor detail.
This is This Week in the NBA with your host Vince Cellini and analyst Mike Glenn.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in the NBA. I'm Vince Cellini, and it was back to work around the league following AllStar Weekend in Salt Lake City. Basketball games and some mind games as Thursday's trading deadline came and went with no earth-shattering deals. Analyst Mike Glenn joins me now. The Stinger is with us. And Mike, there were hot rumors surrounding Danny Manning, Dennis Rodman, Jim Jackson, but when push came to shove, no one pulled the trigger.
No, I think GMs were a little hesitant to pull the trigger, and trading salary cap restrictions really prevented them from doing very much.
All right, we'll start with a trade that was made, though. Back on Monday, the Lakers sent forward Sam Perkins to Seattle in exchange for center Benoit Benjamin, and now the contractually obligated Doug Christie, who signed with L.A. on Friday. And Mike, George Karl gets a very versatile player in Sam Perkins, a guy who can go into his interchangeable parts brand of basketball. So will he help in Seattle?
He will help. Seattle didn't have much of a low post scorer. And Sam Perkins is a guy that can score on the low post, has good hands. He's very good around the basket, good defensive player also. That's an area they really lacked in Seattle. He'll help them.
Well, Sam Perkins said he was shocked by the deal. He was even more surprised when doctors measured him in Seattle and found him to be 6'8" after years of thinking he was 6'9"
Oh boy, what a comeback.
So in the league, you end up shrinking a little bit. All right, Benoit Benjamin, considered an underachieving 7-footer, given another chance now in Los Angeles. And what about his deal? We talked, well, actually, it's going to be, he's not alone. Doug Christie also signs with them. And Christie gets a chance to play finally. And Jerry West, I'm sure, has seen him play at Pepperdine.
Now, I did a couple of Doug Christie's games in college. I really like Doug Christie. He's a young talent, 6'6", reminds you of Dennis Johnson defensively, but with a lot more offense. And Benoit Benjamin also could be a key move. Lakers are revamping. They're getting a lot of youth. They want to run. They're looking good for the future. I like the moves that they've made.
Maybe Big Ben will show us something. Thursday night, the Pistons got the deal done. Not for Dennis Rodman, but rather Orlando Woolridge, who will now play for his 6th NBA team. O is sent to Milwaukee for guard Alvin Robertson, who Mike Dunleavy said did not fit in with the Bucks' young core of guards. So Dennis Rodman stays a Piston. This after teams like Portland, Phoenix, at least 4 other clubs expressed interest. And this was Dennis Rodman's reaction the night after learning he was going to stay put.
I look at myself as I got 30 games left in Detroit. That I have to go out there and give my heart and soul to where I started, and I'm not going to give no less than that. And I can't cheat myself. I can't cheat the people here or the organization.
Well, Dennis Rodman says he's going to put his heart and soul into it. Now, can he recommit to Detroit now that he is going to stay?
Yes, Vince, he can and he will. Dennis Rodman always gives 100%. And keep in mind, this is a player that can really change the course of a game. Tremendous talent, tremendous rebounder, so he'll help Detroit.
Yeah, one of the great defensive players in all of basketball. And the Pistons on paper are much better off with Dennis Rodman, and the numbers back that up. The worm in the lineup and the Pistons 20-14. Without Dennis Rodman, just 3-16, and many of the Pistons privately said that they would be in the playoff picture right now in the Eastern Conference with a healthy, focused Rodman available all season long. Another big-name player said to be on the block was Danny Manning. Manning thought he might be even going to Golden State, and this was Friday, and they were the opponent for the Clippers, and Manning was wearing the Golden State T-shirt as well. I wonder why Danny Manning and Larry Brown, it seems, just can't coexist together.
Well, it seems with Larry Brown, when he first goes to a pro team, everybody is really excited about having him, and he seems to wear thin after about half a season. But Danny Manning is a tremendous talent, a lot of versatility. I think Larry will back off a little bit. They'll work it out and see how far the Clippers can go this year.
And one more player who seemed to be on the block, the Hornets' Kendall Gill. Here's a talented player and part of a great nucleus in Charlotte, but seem to be wearing thin there as well.
Exactly. Great expectations on Kendall Gill. He's a two-guard with tremendous talent. Had some injuries early in the year, and Charlotte fans were expecting an all-star year out of Kendall Gill. But he's still a young guard with a lot of potential, and I think he'll still be a great player and probably still for Charlotte Hornets.
And finally, the Mavs, Jim Jackson, the unsigned #1 pick, Vice President Rick Sun of the Mavs saying Friday he actually agreed to trade Jackson to 4 or 5 teams, but just didn't get that done. And I'm wondering now if teams will stay away from him should Jackson go back into the draft, or was this just an isolated episode with his holdout?
No, Vince, they're going to call it the Dallas thing. Any team will be glad to have Jim Jackson. He has so many moves on the baseline, handles the ball, and he's really perceived as a winner, a guy that can make your team and his teammates better. Somebody's going to be fortunate to have him next season.
Yeah, but gee, he's missing all that fun in Dallas this year.
What fun.
Poor Jimmy. We have to hit the brakes right now. Coming up on This Week in the NBA, we're talking basketball games and the tough road back to the finals for Chicago and Portland. No team backing down from the Bulls. At times this season, Mike and his men, mere mortals. Welcome back. A year ago, the Chicago Bulls put together an impressive march to a second straight title. At times, they appeared invincible, 45-10 after 55 games. This season, they appear human after all, 38-17 after 55, and challenged almost nightly, even by average NBA teams. Are the Bulls slipping? And can Jordan place his teammates between the 2 and 3 on his back and carry Chicago to the top again?
During the first half of the season, the Bulls showed signs of wear and tear. Back-to-back titles will do that to you. Starters in and out of the lineup due to injury, surviving a grueling 9-game, 20-day road trip, and at times going back to bad habits, like waiting for you-know-who to rescue them in the final quarter.
Last year we were a little bit more consistent. The previous year we were a little bit more consistent. I think injuries has been the biggest key. We missed some key guys, and really hadn't given our starting 5 or our 7 players from the past 2 years an opportunity to get that chemistry together.
Chicago is still adjusting to a new crew off the bench. Darrell Walker has helped some, but the injured Rodney McRae hasn't been the scoring spark the Bulls were hoping for.
Guys like Rodney who haven't really got off his foot real well so far. He's dealt with injuries. He came in injured and no one really recognized the injury. And Trent, who's really stepped up and helped us a lot. Our bench has played well enough to help us, but they're going to get better in the next 30 games.
And what of Chicago's pursuers? Division rival Cleveland stormed the stadium February 13th and beat the Bulls even with Jordan returning from a 1-game suspension.
We played better against Chicago this year than we have in the past couple of seasons. I think they know in the back of their minds that we can play with them and we're capable of beating them if we can minimize our mistakes. So I think the possibility is there that we can play with them.
Most disturbing for Chicago is the number of home losses. 8 this season as compared to 5 all of last year.
We've never lost as many home games as we've lost here of late. Probably in 2 seasons, we've probably lost more this season already. And, you can't come up with any excuses. We just got to start playing better and get everybody help.
They're just laying in wait. And I expect them the second half of the year, because they do have a very, very good schedule, to probably play their best basketball. They were on the road for 9 consecutive games, and they've seen the toughest part of their schedule. I think they only have 13 or 14 road games left, and so you're going to see them at the stadium a lot.
There is no question the Eastern Conference will ultimately be a bullfight, and we will see just how much fight is left in the World Champs.
Well, let's not feel too sorry for the Chicago Bulls. They have the best record in the East now after a win last night. And, Mike, they got some bench help as T-Squared came up and helped them last night against the Hawks.
Sure did. Trent Tucker was on fire. He was 9 for 9, perfect for the game, and 6 for 6 from three-point land. He's replacing Craig Hodges, and he's the next best to Craig at the three-point shot.
We talk about personnel changes for the Bulls, but one thing remains constant. That is the fact that they play super defense.
They do, Vince, and they've improved upon that even more so by adding Darrell Walker. Darrell's a guy who can pressure in the backcourt, get those steals and easy baskets, and Bulls aren't done yet.
No, I don't think so by a long shot. Wow, Chicago's finals opponent a year ago, the Portland Trail Blazers, well, they're having problems of their own. Heading into tonight's game at Boston, the Blazers just 4-7 in their last 11 with losses to Miami, Orlando twice, and the Clips and T-Wolves. Portland was just 2.5 games back of Phoenix on January 30th. As we speak, 7.5 behind, losing ground in that lost month of February. Mike, what's going on up in Portland?
Well, one thing, Vince, when you miss Clyde Drexler out of your lineup for an extended period of time, it's got to hurt your ball club. So Rick Adelman decided to shake things up a little bit. They were getting a little stale. They had the same starting lineup for years. So now he took Jerome Kersey out of that starting lineup and put Cliff Robinson. I think that's the key, because Cliff's a guy who can go out and guard players on the perimeter and can score points for you. He's probably their MVP so far this year.
Yeah, we have to go to break now. Before we do, though, you say watch out for Portland come playoff time.
Oh, yeah. Very good team still.
Always dangerous. We got to take that break. But coming up, whatever happened to Rick Barry? He of the underhanded free throws, now giving it his best shot as a head coach. Barry ball. Who'd have believed this? We have the story to prove it next.
Watch the NBA Mondays on these channels in the following countries.
Rick Barry, Hall of Famer. Often a hot hand, almost always a hot head. The fiery Barry was many things as a player, but certainly not a coaching candidate. However, that was then and this is now. And lo and behold, Barry is currently a head coach in the CBA for, appropriately enough, the Fort Wayne Fury. CNN's Mark Morgan caught up with a man whose underhanded tricks never cease to amaze.
He's a Hall of Famer, the only player to lead the NCAA, ABA, and NBA in scoring. Rick Barry's ability on the court was never in question, but his personality was.
You know, sure, I might have been a jerk when I was younger to go along with the things that they said, but I think I've matured and grown up as a person, but I don't think I was ever as big a jerk as they made me out to be back in the days when I was one.
Following his playing days, Barry stayed close to the court as a network broadcaster. From there, the transition to coach seemed natural, at least to Barry.
I've heard all of the nonsense. People, Rick Barry will never be a coach. The players will hate him. He'll get a million technical fouls. I mean, there's no way he could ever do it. Well, you know, the worst thing you can tell Rick Barry is that he can't do something.
Let's go, let's go. Get it up.
After a brief head coaching stint in the now defunct Global Basketball Association, Barry is calling the shots for the Fort Wayne Fury of the CBA.
Rick Barry's right at the top of any player that ever played the game, and I think he brings a lot of insight and knowledge to these guys of what it takes to be a professional.
This 48-year-old father of 5 has 4 sons playing hoops. John is a Milwaukee Buck. Son Drew plays for Georgia Tech. Brent suits up for Oregon State. And now his oldest son, Scooter, has been acquired by the Fury.
It's father-son, but it's player-coach first. After the game, then sure, it's an opportunity for me to spend quality time with my father that I really haven't had.
If you can't help your own kids, you know, you got a problem. I mean, if you got a chance to help your kids, you should help them. I mean, as long as you're doing it fairly. And I think that I'm doing it fairly here.
As a player, Barry's trademark was his intensity. As a coach, he's lost none of that burning desire to win. But his demeanor on the sidelines is a little bit more subdued than during his playing days.
As a coach, I cannot be out of control. I cannot be someone who is ranting and raving on the sidelines and losing focus on what's happening on the game so that I can try to make the right decisions.
He's totally opposite. He's crazy out on the floor. You know, he always tells us, you know, in practice and stuff, you know, he tries to get us that crazy, but when he's coaches, he's totally laid back.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
What the hell is he watching? Let's go, defense! Go! Oh, whoa, whoa! Go!
Whether it's playing or coaching, Barry is a perfectionist. His hunger to be the best could land him a head coaching job in the NBA. Until then,
I'm learning so much more by being a coach here on this level because I'm calling the shots. I'm, you know, learning, you know, under fire. And I found that I really love it, much more so than I even realized.
Let's go, guys. Okay, how do we win? Together, let's do it.
You know, you watch certain guys in their playing days and you think, boy, he'd make a good coach someday.
Right.
But I don't think anyone said that about Rick Barry.
No, they didn't. I mean, this was a guy that would yell at officials. The first time I played against him, I couldn't believe the things he was saying. Then he would come out and hit 7 straight jumpers. I said, well, I guess it's okay if you yell a little.
I wonder if we'll see the return of the underhanded free throw around the CBA now.
No, it's not cool. I'm sorry. He did it well, but it's not cool. It's out.
But I'll tell you, between Rick and all the boys, there could be a Barry coming to an arena near you. So be on the lookout. The Barrys are coming up. Back in a minute with the best of the bizarre. A review of the ridiculous in the NBA, just in case you missed it.
Time for this week's Chrysler Fast Break from the Knicks and T-Wolves. It's New York on the run, and the T-Wolves playing catch-up. Patrick Ewing under, around, and in. The Knicks having fun on the run for this week's Chrysler Fast Break.
So you say you took in AllStar Weekend from Salt Lake City, the slams, the long-distance shootouts, the high-priced pickup game itself. But there was much more. Dig a little deeper and discover this was also a weekend to showcase a teal bug, a classic hot rod, and a mercenary three-point specialist. CNN's Fred Hickman pushing rewind, just in case you missed it.
Well, we're coming off the 43rd All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City, but some folks were still remembering the 42nd. Did you check out the Slammies that didn't make the headlines All-Star Saturday? Boomer rocked the house with this one. The T-Wolf had some hop right here. But the teal deal, Super Hugo, the two-time defending champion, says, I got skills, baby. The ever-popular bug on a window dunk and dismount. As the day progressed, the guys in short pants hit the planks. That's Hot Rod Hundley out there, voice of the Jazz and the Legends game. Appropriate, since the last time we saw legs like that, they were holding up a piano. Anyway, there was this, the old three-man weave. The old man three-man weave winds up in a layup by Super Lou Hudson. Back to the rack, the long-distance shootout. Defending champion Craig Hodges, the man without a team, took a seat early, leaving it up to Price and Porter down the stretch. Price had a nice final round score of 18, and then with 1 point to make and 5 balls to shoot, Terry Porter went as cold as the Utah night. Money ball to win, nothing. Price wins 20 G's with relative ease. Back to the hole, the new slam dunk king is crowned, Miami Herald. The Rook won with his first rise. Got a little horizontal there, a little Michael-esque. Reversed it with some muscle, and Isaiah said, that's what I'm talking about. And this is what I'm talking about. The sweet assist from Zeke to Mike. Manning turning this Porter air ball into an all-star assist. Thank you. Price still busting him out. Would have been the East MVP of the East one, I think. And Dan Marley, without whom the West wouldn't have been the best. Shaq, get used to it. You'll be seeing him a lot in all-star competition. Whew. That'll suck the air right out of a guy. But recess did end and the regular season did resume this week. Jordan picked it up right where he left off. Larry Johnson proved why he is Grandmama's favorite little baby. Shaq still taking his bows from All-Star Weekend. And Max put in his bid for next year's long-distance shootout in Minneapolis. And hey, maybe we can get the Stinger in for that Legends game. He's almost old enough.
Oh, no.
You know, you were doing an awful lot of reminiscing out there with the Legends.
That's right, but I didn't know you were going to have video of it, trying to draft me into the Legends game now.
We're trying to get you in there next year.
Okay.
You can be competitive. Of course, you have to split the money with all this.
Oh, well, no deal.
Back in a moment with a final word. Stick around.
Our man in the paint is Golden State's Tim Hardaway with clippers all over his back. He's just got to get rid of it, and he does. And it goes. Tim Hardaway, always seeming to make it look like he does it the easy way. But in fact, he wasn't looking at all. He's our man in the paint.
Well, you know, all that Legends stuff out in Utah last weekend got us to feeling nostalgic about the good old days in the NBA. Days when guys like Mike Glenn ruled the league. Mike Glenn, who is that youngster? How did he come to be known as the Stinger? We'll just take a look at this vintage 62 footage of Mike Glenn firing up that feathery jumper. Mike, look at that. Now we know you got the shot, but we also have a little something for you as you are D'ing up against Air Jordan himself. This is you against Michael Jordan. Now, kind of take us through this. What happens here?
Well, anytime you go out to Jordan, you look for help. You try to double team him and say, where is the help? And that was a young Mike. He was in his prime then.
See, you had him, and then you lost him.
Where do y'all get that footage, man? Come on.
You know what? I think you got out of the league just in time.
I think so.
But we're happy you're here with us.
Thanks.
We want to remind you that coming up later today, Nancy Dubin and Tom Kirkland are here for CNN Sports Sunday, 7:30 Eastern Time. All of the highlights of the Sunday NBA action and much, much more. Until next week, for one of the pioneers of the game, Mike Glenn, I'm Vince Cellini. We'll see you next week.
This has been a presentation of CNN Sports.